In this lecture, we're going to learn advanced chart formatting options like dynamic titles, reverse categories, axis options, error bars, and chart templates. We'll start with dynamic titles. As you already know, every time you add a chart, Excel adds a chart title. You can also add a chart title if you go to Design tab, Add Chart Elements, and Chart Title. To make a title dynamic, you have to point this chart title to a value like a cell reference. For example, I have written two chart titles here. The first is a simple text, revenue and net profit per year. So if you want to make the chart title dynamic, just click on the title, click on the formula bar, type equal, and assign it to the cell with the written title. In our case are the revenue and net profit per year. Press enter and Excel will automatically show the title. The second is a more complex title that I use a formula to create. Click on the formula bar again, delete them all except the equal sign, and assign it to the cell with the cell A12. Press enter. Click on A12 cell and let's explain the formula. A7 is this year 2018. The ampersand is a concatenation operator which can be used to combine two text strings or values. After the year 2018, I've added a space. Then I have added the text revenue went up by. Then I use the int formula which rounds a number down to the nearest integer. After that I made a calculation to find the percentage of increase, and finally I've added the A6 value which is the year 2017. That way I compare 2 years, 2018 and 2017. This is a very powerful dynamic title, and these are two examples of how dynamic title charts can be used. Dynamic titles are used very often in dashboards. Next, we're going to talk about the reversing chart categories. Here we have created a bar chart based on these datas. However, the values in the table are in reverse order. The first year here is 2015, but in the chart is 2018. We are going to reverse the order of the values in the chart. Click on the vertical axis and press Ctrl+1. The Format Axis pane appears. From Axis options, select Categories in reverse order. Now, look at the chart. Excel reversed the values but also moved the X-axis from the bottom to the top. Choose horizontal axis crosses vertical axis at the maximum category and close. We have corrected the category axis. Now we're going to learn to format axis and axis bounds. I have a lot of values in vertical axis starting from 0 and increases by 50 until the 500 value. Select the vertical axis and press Ctrl+1. The Format Axis pane opens. Look at the bounds from Axis options. You can set the minimum and maximum values, but make sure you consider your data. It's wrong to set a maximum bound at 300 and the max value at 450. Then the bar will appear to be cutting through the chart. Let's adjust the major unit to a high value, for example, 200. The display units option is useful when we have big numbers. I don't think tick marks are very useful. The number settings will allow us to format the axis values on a custom number. For example, change the category number to currency and look at the chart. Undo to general category. A clever feature is the format code. Let's suppose, for example, that we want to highlight the values above 300. Type the following. Green, in brackets, greater than 300, in brackets again, and 3 zeros separated by semicolons. Now look at the axis. We wanted to green color the values that are greater than 300. Great! Delete the specific format and press Add button to return to the default format. When we have dates, there are some special options that I'm going to explain now. This chart has a very noisy horizontal axis. We can't even see the dates. One of the beautiful features of Excel's axis date formatting is that you can actually group the data by month or year. Right-click on the horizontal axis and select the Format Axis. From the Format Axis pane, change the major unit to months. Excel group the values by month. Pretty straightforward, right? You can play with this option and group, for example, the data by 10 days, like this. I think it's better now. As you can see, the grouping feature can be applied straight away from Axis formatting. The next topic is about combining two chart types. In this table, we have some sales and some expenses per year. Both sales and expenses are in this column chart. I want to change the expenses as a line chart. This is done by selecting a series, right-clicking, and choosing the Change Series Chart Type option and selecting a line chart. Excel will nicely overlay the line chart over the columns. I don't recommend adding a secondary axis because it's a bit confusing. Press OK. This is how combo charts work. I also recommend removing the chart elements and clean up the chart. For example, you could remove the grid lines or reduce the vertical axis frequency, or delete legend if necessary by pressing the delete key. Sometimes the labels are not readable, especially vertical labels, so you might want to show the labels horizontally. I will show you a trick so that you can create an artificial two-line effect. You can create this kind of effect very easily using some simple formulas. Look at these labels, they're actually a mirror lookup. So the first cell is referring to B91, but the second cell is referring to cell B92, but it also has a formula called char10. The Excel char function returns a character when given a valid character code. Char can be used to specify characters so that we are hard to enter into a formula. For example, char10 returns a line break on Windows, so we use this formula to insert a new line into a value. The third cell is referring to B93, so write the first two formulas and then drag them down and it creates a range of values. After that, right-click on the horizontal axis, select Data from this dialog box, press the Edit button from Horizontal Axis Labels and highlight the new labels. Press OK and OK again. Excel created this two-line effect. The distracting elements of the chart are now in the background and the actual message is popping out of the chart. Let's continue to the topic, which is the error bars. Error bars in Excel are graphical representations of data variability. They show the precision of measurement. The bars usually represent standard deviation and standard error. They indicate how far from the determined value is the true value. Error bars begin on a chart and they provide a more comprehensive view of the dataset and allow users to see the margins of error of the data. Microsoft Excel allows to add error bars to certain types of charts, including line chart bar, bar chart, and scatter chart. In our example, we have the sales of consoles from the year 2016 to 2018, and this is a line chart with markers. Select the chart and click on the plus symbol on the right of the chart. Check error bars and click on the arrow to see the different options. You can add the following error bars to your chart. Standard error indicates the standard error for all values in the dataset. Percentage determines a percentage error range and error amount for each value. Standard deviation displays a standard deviation for all values. If you click on more options, you can add error bars based on these series. Nice! We've touched on a useful feature in Excel like error bars, and now we're ready to move on. Formatting a chart is also chosen the right colors for our chart. There are 4 principles when designing a chart: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. The first principle, contrast, means that in a chart you want to contrast one thing against others. For example, in this chart I want to contrast the highest amount of revenue with everything else, which is revenue for the year 2018. It has to be completely different than others, for example, a red color, so that everybody looking at the design will know that this is different from that. To do this, I will highlight the specific column, choose a red color from the fill color dashboard. The contrast principle has great importance when creating a dashboard. Undo now. The second principle is repetition, which means that you have to repeat the same ideas throughout your design. For example, the same colors, fonts, grid lines, labels, etc. In this chart we repeat similar elements throughout our design like colors and labels so that everything looks consistent. The third principle is alignment. It means that all the edges of the elements should be aligned to each other. This aspect can be achieved whenever we are making multiple charts or we are making dashboards and the size is similar, the charts are aligned with the table, etc. The last principle is proximity. Proximity means that there are similar elements that should be grouped together. In this chart, the years are grouped here and here. These are the 4 basic design principles that you should keep in mind when creating a chart or dashboard. Also, the color palettes in Excel 2019 are nicely contrasted. Don't choose confusing colors, just select the default palettes. You should be able to keep everything simple and work with it. If you like the design of this chart, for example, you can save it as a template and reuse it for future purposes. Just select it, right-click, and choose to save as a template. Excel will prompt you to select the location to save it. This is a huge time saver. Once you save it as a template, you can reuse them whenever you are making a new chart. That concludes our lesson on chart formatting. I hope you found the lesson useful. In the next lesson, we're going to learn more advanced charting and formatting tips. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.